I don't want to be a product of my environment. I want my environment to be a product of me.
Prestige Living Podcast. So with that, who do you want to be?
Hello, welcome to Prestige Living. This is Jay O'Brien with another segment of Be Bold. It's been a couple weeks and this episode's long overdue. I apologize. Today, I want to apply a principle that should be easy enough to grasp but not quite as easy to execute, at least perpetually on a daily basis. We all know negative thoughts can create negative feelings and negative words can create negative impact on you emotionally. And it's simply just by complaining out loud about very little minor things like voicing that you're tired or unnecessarily whining about the weather or something. It's almost like we do this as a way to start conversation or something, but it's actually just pointless. Not only is it pointless, but it's kind of like spraying a couple bursts of self-deprecation and negativity into the air for everyone to just smell, and then that becomes infectious. And before you know it, you and your circle are just stuck in this circle of blah. This is how it all starts. It's how it begins. Phase 1, if you will. Then we look for people to complain about or speak of unfavorably. And somehow they come up in conversation, and rather than finding nice, positive things to amplify how great this individual is, we scan the brain for something that can inject a slight dose of entertainment in the conversation, something dramatic, something that people in the circle can share and relate to with one another at someone else's expense. And for some strange reason, it stimulates the conversation temporarily, but once the moment's over, it almost chipped away the wholeness of your personal joy, and you've continued your day a little emptier until you get your next fix. It's like we all want to have the tallest building, but instead of building it, we find it easier to tear down the ones around us to make ours appear bigger. Now, if you're listening to this, pause for a minute. Really think back to the last time you participated in phase 1, the pointless complaining, the weather, your fatigue, some ambiguous or vague issue at work, really nothing that had a solution tied to it. And if you're being honest with yourself, it probably happened within the last few hours. Now think about the last time you participated in phase 2, the judgment and speaking of others unfavorably. Maybe even if you didn't feel that way, but you were part of the conversation and didn't want to put an uncomfortable halt to the whole thing. Again, probably something that has happened very, very recently. So here's the challenge, especially during this time of year and going into a new one. Consciously monitor and audit your level of complaining. The moment there's a dead space in a conversation and you feel yourself about to fill it with something negative and pointless, throw out a question that engages the person you're with, something about them, maybe their family, something that's healthy and stimulating. This will help curb the phase 1 piece. The second challenge is a bit more difficult. So anytime another person is mentioned negatively in your presence and a conversation's about to begin around this, pretend that that person who's being spoken of is right there listening to you. And how do you react whether you participate in it or not? You'll quickly reconsider the nature and the direction of that conversation, and this is the time you want to just change the subject. Just switch gears entirely. You'll start to notice when you don't participate in conversations and negative and dramatic stories about others that the people involved will begin to respect you more, and they'll recognize what you're doing. We all know that when we hear someone speaking poorly about one person, that they most likely are doing the same thing about us when we aren't around. Remember, have the tallest building by building it, not by tearing down the ones around you. Be confident, be considerate, be aware, and be bold.